Hi everyone, this is Yanis Makula and welcome to another video. Today I'd like to share a fun heat embossing technique that I like to use for my die cuts when I need to make them pop. So I'll be making a card using a fun fish color layering stamp set from Hero Arts. Color layering has become very popular lately and there are just so many different gorgeous images that you can stamp and they will look like you've colored them. For me, color layering is like a substitute for coloring. I am not very good at coloring images and it often takes me a lot of time to color. So I love using color layering stamps to sort of fake it. The idea is that the final image has a couple layers and you stamp each layer using a different color of ink and you end up having a gorgeous result that looks like it has been expertly colored. Here's a quick look at Hero Arts color layering fish set. The stamp set that I have here is a prototype, so this is why it looks this way. I've stamped the two fish images onto a piece of cardstock to show you what color layering looks like. So I took the first layer of fish and stamped it using one color, and then took the second layer and stamped it using a darker color, and then added the eye, which in this case is actually a third layer. Here's that eye stamped on its own so you can see it a little better. I also stamped a few additional fish images using a couple other oranges and reds just to show you that there's no limit to what colors you can use. And if you don't like yellows and oranges, think about stamping these using pinks, greens, blues, or purples. Think about tropical fish and their bold and vibrant colors. The first and the third examples are probably my most favorite here. So let's go back to the card. I'm going to start working by die cutting a window in my front panel. I need it so that I can make an aquarium for my fish to swim in. You can also turn this into a shaker card if you like by adding a layer of acetate later and maybe adding some sequins and some beads. So I'm going to stamp my small fish here just to show you how I like to stamp them and how easy it is. I'll also be using the fish images that I've already stamped on that other piece of paper, but I do want to show you how I made these. Usually I like to start with the lightest color and the largest layer, usually the most bottom layer. But for this example, because I'm using a very light yellow ink, I'm going to stamp the second layer first and then do the first one. This way it will be easier for me to align it. As long as you use dye ink, it doesn't really matter what layer is stamped first. Instead of using one color of ink for my second layer, I'm using an ombre ink pad and inking my image using two colors, just to add more variation and make it more interesting. Hero Arts ombre inks are fantastic to use with these color layering sets, and I often ink my stamps like this. So there, my second layer is stamped, and I'm loving all of the detail here. Going to switch to the first layer, ink it up using my light yellow, and stamp on top. Having the detailed image stamped first makes it easier for me, in this case, to align my first layer. And look how cool that looks. And it really took me less than a minute to stamp it. Had I decided I wanted to color a fish like this, it would probably take me at least 10 minutes, and I'm not sure it would look even remotely this beautiful. Now let's stamp the eye. Going to use the darkest color from my yellow ombre pad for that. It can also be stamped using brown or black ink pad, but I thought that orange looked best in this case. The next step is to cut these out. I'm using matching dies and going to quickly send those through my die cutting machine, but you can also fussy cut those images out. I'm going to work on my aquarium next by doing some ink blending. So I'm placing my die cut panel onto a card base, and this is an A2 top folding card, and using a pencil to mark where it ends so that I don't add any ink there. I'm also adding the positive circle inside the panel, removing the panel while holding the circle in place, and tracing around it to know where to add my ink. I'm going to use washi tape and tape the edges of the card base so that I can keep them nice and clean. I'm adhering washi to my hand a couple of times to make it less sticky so that I don't damage the paper when I'll be removing it later. You can use special tape for this, but I have so much washi I need to use it for something, so that's why I'm using it for masking here. I bought so many rolls of washi tape a few years ago and they're going to last me a lifetime if I don't start using them for something else. So I'm going to start creating my water in my aquarium now. I'm going to use two ink pads, the mint to green ombre and the pool to navy ombre, and we'll blend the mint at the top of the circle and the pool at the bottom. You can also use various shades of green to make it really look like the bottom of the ocean. I do have another card on my blog where I used more green colors for the blending, so water looks more more green than blue. I'm not spending too much time here, not trying to make it perfect. Most of it is going to be covered with fish anyway, so if there are any imperfections, it doesn't really matter. I'm removing my washi tape and just double checking here if all looks good. I'm going to replace my circle here once again and outline with the pencil again, just so that I know where to stamp the seaweed for the background. There are 3 seaweed images in this set, and I'm stamping each a few times using various colors from the pool to navy and mint to green ombre pads. I love using my ombre ink pads like this. Just one pad, but you instantly have 3 colors of ink. So I did make a little boo-boo there at the bottom, but it doesn't really matter. It's going to be covered with a panel so no one will see it, so I'm not stressing about it. I'm going to come back to my fish now and going to make them pop. I'm going to use Hero Art's Sparkle Embossing Powder to make the fish appear wet, like they are actually swimming in water, and also make them shiny and sparkly. Unfortunately, I did this part off camera, but all you need to do is to press the daggit fish onto the clear embossing ink pad so that it picks up that ink, and then pour Sparkle Embossing Powder on top and heat set it. The Sparkle Embossing Powder contains glitter particles that are being held inside by the clear powder. In the end, you get a really cool sparkly embossed image. Depending where you emboss it onto, it looks different. If you emboss it onto white on a holiday, on a Christmas card, it looks like snow. If you emboss it over a fruit image, it looks like sugar on a fruit. And if you emboss it over a fish, it looks like the fish is wet and sparkly. It's such a fun embossing powder to play with. It's one of my favorites. Now I only did 1 layer here, but you can repeat the inking and add a second layer of embossing powder to make it more shiny and more sparkly if you want. But I think that 1 layer is more than enough. I'm also going to heat emboss the cinnamon. I'm using white embossing powder this time and stamping it in clear sticky ink onto white cardstock. Cinnamon reads, "Just keep on swimming." It's white on white at the moment, but I'll be doing some ink blending over it, and the heat embossing will resist the ink and will remain white while the paper will turn blue. You can alternatively blend the ink first and then heat emboss it, but you'll need to let the ink dry first to make sure your embossing ends up nice and clean. And of course, another option is to use colored cardstock. I did not have any on hand that matched the color that I wanted, so I used ink and did some ink blending. I'm going to trim this cinnamon a little bit and we'll start putting the card together. So I'm also creating a little fishtail ant on one side of the cinnamon strip, and we'll be adding some white string to the other one and tying it into a little bow later. I'm placing my daggit fish images and planning how I want everything placed on my card. I first wanted to add gold glitter tape to the space on the left, but decided that that would look much better with white there. So I grabbed white glitter tape from American Crafts and just added a strip. I love using this tape. It's self-adhesive, so that makes things go a little faster, and it's like a no-mess glitter. You have the glitter on your project, but there's no mess afterwards. Gotta love that. Going to use my foam tape and add lots of it to the other side of my daggit panel and adhere that onto my card base just to pop things up a bit. I'm also using foam squares to foam mount the fish onto the card. The large one is going to be placed partially outside the window or outside the little aquarium, and the 2 smaller fish will be foam mounted inside. I'm cutting the part of the tail of the bottom fish to make sure it will fit inside the aquarium, and then adding the last one, also using foam adhesive here. I'm going to foam mount the cinnamon strip and add that white floss that I mentioned earlier and embellish the card using a couple of gems from Hero Arts. So this finishes my today's project. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, drop me a comment, and share with fellow stampers. This video is also a part of a Hero Arts blog hub. There's lots more inspiration and some giveaways too. Be sure to head to my blog for more information. I have lots more videos using stamps from Hero Arts on my YouTube channel. Be sure to check those out as well for additional inspiration today. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.